What's up, everybody? Welcome back to John's Fantasy Football Show. Now, look at this. We're in real life right now.
We're in the same room. Isn't that crazy?
This is a monumental day. This has never happened, and we've done 11 episodes, and this has never happened before. We're off of Zoom. You see, we got the little screen here. So, if you guys don't already know, if you've seen the TikTok, you already know. But we are in New Jersey, East Rutherford, going to the Giants-Cowboys game on Sunday. So, John, let me tell you, tell the fans something. You're a big Giants fan,
yeah,
right? We're gonna go through the list. So I'm a Chargers fan, and then Caleb, who is on the Dorn Bay podcast, is an Eagles fan, and then Jonathan is a Cowboys fan. So this is the main reason. We were close to Philly, so Caleb could drive up. I could drive up because I was from New York, and Jonathan gets to see his own team with the Cowboys, and you get to see your own team. When was the last time you saw the Giants?
I haven't seen them. I only went to one game, and it was like the Giants-Jets in like 2015, I think it was.
2015.
So like 6 years ago.
And they were much better back then.
Oh yeah, they were actually. I got to see Odell at least in that game.
Oh yeah,
which was nice.
At least we could see Barkley.
Yeah.
No Daniel Jones this week. We get to see Mike Glennon. Maybe see Galladay, Shepard. Maybe they're all questionable.
Everybody's questionable, like always.
Yeah, but yeah, there's gonna be a whole bunch of content going on. Obviously, this is the first thing we got here maybe an hour ago. Set all this up and started filming because we need to put this out on Saturday morning. But yeah, I guess I want to talk about the beanies too. That if you guys are going to the game and you see this on Saturday, and if you see us, you come up to us on the off chance that you see us. I don't know, there's a lot of people going to the game. But if you come up to us, we'll chat it up about fantasy and stuff, take pictures and whatnot. But we also have 5 Dorm Debate beanies. I wish I had them on hand, but they're in the other room. But there's 5 Dorm Debate beanies, so the first 5 people that come up to us will give you a beanie for free. There's only 10 made. We have 4. We have the other 5, and then we're giving away the last 5. So, yeah, I mean, without further ado, let's get into the fantasy football. It's probably what they all want to hear right now.
They all just
they don't give a crap. They don't give
Tell
a crap.
me who to start or who not.
So the first thing on our list, and our list is right here, is the tight end rankings. Now, I know for me, in my one league, I have Mark Andrews, so I'm set with him.
Right.
But the other league, I have Darren Waller.
Right.
So Darren Waller's been in and out of the lineup. I think he's going to miss his 3rd straight week, I think.
Yep.
He's out. So not with COVID, just normal injury.
Yeah, and one thing I want to mention, I'm going to talk about tight ends because, like you said, you have a lot of questions about tight end, but I wanted to mention the Patreon first. And I know you guys probably have heard about the Patreon from our previous episodes and from TikTok, but I posted something on Patreon before the Thursday night game because I wanted to give you guys some clarity on who to start, who to sit, and what to make of all these players because there's a lot of injuries, like a lot of players to consider. And I basically said you got to start Mahomes, Hill, and Kelsey, and you have to start Herbert and Keenan Allen. And then I talked about some of the other players. I said CEH. I would be careful about him. Mike Williams, I said, is an okay start, but I like Renfro and DK over him. And then also Eckler, I said he's close to a must start, and he's good for like 15 to 18 points. He ended up with 18.2. So I'm just trying to give you guys the most advice that I can. And head over to the Patreon because these last few weeks that you guys are going to be in the playoffs, hopefully you've made it that far, but it's really important. I'm going to try to give updates before the Monday and Tuesday games this week because some games got postponed, but every Thursday I'm going to try to post something, and then of course the lives on Sunday getting my picks and sits, and it's $1 a week for all that. So I pretty much hit the nail on the head on Thursday, so hopefully you guys can join that. Just head over. I think Jared will put a link in the description, or you could head over to our TikTok to find that.
Yeah, and it's nothing new. I mean, you're like 23 and 26 in the last 3 weeks.
I've been on a tear lately, so hopefully I can keep it going this week. No promises, but hopefully I can help you guys out. But again, the tight end rankings, I hear a lot of people talking about tight ends. I actually made a video, tight end edition, cut bench start, and I said you could cut Foster Moreau because he hasn't been playing really well or producing when Waller is out. I said you should bench Pat Freiermuth because I don't really like his matchup. In the last 3 games, he had 4 targets, and 3 targets. And against the Vikings in a shootout, he only had 3 targets. He did catch a touchdown, but that worries me, his target share decreasing, and he's really not getting that many looks. So I wanted to give you guys some clarity. I did actually say in that video, start Gerald Everett. That was with the news that Tyler Lockett is out with COVID. but that game got postponed from Sunday to Tuesday, so now we don't know if Lockett will be back by then, which actually downgrades Gerald Everett a little bit. So I'm going to run through my tight end rankings for this week, just to give you guys an idea of how much I like these guys, but I'm assuming that Lockett is going to play, and I'm assuming that Tyler Higby, who was just put on the COVID list, is also going to play. But just obviously monitor all these situations as we go throughout the week. But number one, you have Kittle. That's obvious. Kelsey already played, and Waller isn't playing this week, like Jared, you said. Number two is Mark Andrews. Whether it's Lamar Jackson or Tyler Huntley, you're starting Mark Andrews. Huntley actually threw a touchdown to Mark Andrews last week, which was great.
He uses him way more than Lamar does.
Yeah, literally. He does. And he used actually Rashad Bateman a lot too. So I wouldn't downgrade, and I wouldn't be like, oh, you have to start the Packers defense now, because Huntley's pretty good. He rushed the ball. They put up 22 or 23 points on the Browns, so he's pretty good. Number three, you have Gronk. Number four, you have Mike Gesicki, and a lot of you might be saying, well, that's weird that you have Gesicki really high, but the reason is because Waddle is out with COVID. That game's still going to happen on Sunday, not being rescheduled. So you have to have Gesicki into your lineup. If you have either one of the top three tight ends ahead of him, like Andrews or Kittle or Gronk, I would be fine with you throwing Mike Gesicki in there in the flex as well. But Gesicki has to be trying to get into your lineup this week. And then you got Dallas Goddard coming off a big game 2 weeks ago with Minshew at quarterback. You guys might think, oh, it's a little bit of a downgrade now that Hurts is coming back. I think once you find a guy, once you have a great game and you use a guy, then the next week they're kind of like, oh, wow, we actually found something in him. Remember with Kyle Pitts, tight end, remember they played in London and he had that 25-point game. And then they had a bye the next week, and the Falcons are like, oh, wait, we can use this guy. And then the next week he had over 20 fantasy points again, hasn't had games like that since. But I think they might do that with Goddard. 2 games ago he had 2 touchdowns, over 100 yards, and then they had a bye last week. They might be like, oh, wow, we could utilize this tight end more. I think this week he's going to get 10 targets, and I think he's a good fantasy option. Then you got Dawson Knox against Carolina. He's a good start. And then Zach Ertz with D-Hop out. You got him against the Lions, should be good play for him. And then Pitts I still have in my top 10 because the 49ers, the way to attack the 49ers is actually in the secondary, so I like Pitts a little bit. Then you got Dalton Schultz against the Giants. The Cowboys shouldn't need to throw it a whole lot, so I'm a little worried about Schultz, but I still think he squeaks into the top 10. Then Tyler Higby against Seattle, assuming he plays. Seattle, like I've talked the last few weeks, the way to attack them is on the ground and in the middle of the field. Kittle had a huge game against them, so I do like Higby if he's activated off the COVID list by then. Ricky Seals-Jones is also an option. Terry McLaurin seems questionable to play. Now that the game was postponed till Tuesday, it seems like he probably will. But Ricky Seals-Jones is an option, especially if Cam Sims, who was just put on the COVID list, doesn't play because he caught a long touchdown last week. Could open up some options for Ricky Seals-Jones. Had 4 targets last week, 1 on a 2-point conversion in the end zone, didn't connect. But I know Heineke's looking for him. And then Gerald Everett, that's assuming Tyler Lockett plays. Then I don't like Everett as much. He did have 10 fantasy points last week. He still has a decent floor, but just be careful about him. Monitor Lockett's status as the week goes on. And then the last 3 are Conklin, Fant, and Pat Freiermuth. And those guys are like secondary guys if you're pretty desperate. They don't have great matchups, and I don't really trust their QBs. Kirk Cousins on Monday Night Football, Teddy Bridgewater, just in general, I don't really trust. And then Pat Freiermuth, like I said, his target share is going down, so I wouldn't trust him too much. So try to get one of the guys in the top 10. And if you guys can, definitely get Gesicki, Goddard, those top few guys into your lineup.
No Evan Engram on that list.
No Evan Engram. I know. He's playing. We're going to see him on Sunday.
We're going to see him.
No, I mean, it's tough with Mike Glenn at quarterback. The Giants aren't going to score that many points, so it's like, how do you really put him into your lineup with any confidence?
Right. We're not going to see a lot of touchdowns from the Giants
No,
this week.
unfortunately not.
I wish.
Maybe Barkley can break one loose.
I'm calling it right now. This is the first time I'm saying this. I've said this to you multiple times. I am calling Galladay's first touchdown as a New York Giant will be this week. I'm telling you.
It's crazy that it's taken this long.
Dude,
how has it taken this long, bro?
I don't know. It's amazing.
Week 15 now?
Week 15.
It's crazy. He
can't go the whole season without.
Dude, he's literally like one of the highest paid receivers, I think. I think he's in the top 10. We paid him so much money.
That's what hurts the most, is he's paid so much.
That's what hurts.
And he got injured just like you said.
Yeah.
That was like the one thing you were worried about. You're like, oh, well, he's a good receiver when he's healthy.
Yeah,
but he's
never healthy.
He's never healthy.
Yeah.
So, Yeah, no, I'm calling it. Galladay will get his first touchdown against the Cowboys this week. Maybe even 2. Who knows?
Maybe 2.
Maybe even 2.
We're thinking if he gets the first one, he's going to want to keep that ball.
Yep.
But then the second touchdown, he'll give to us because he's like, oh, there's dorm debate in the crowd. Maybe give him.
Yeah, well, he probably watches Saturday morning.
Oh, yeah, he's watching this, and he's like, okay, I got to give him the ball.
They believe in me. I gotta show up for it. So speaking of injuries, we're actually going to move on to our next topic, which is injuries, and it kind of just morphs into the COVID list, which is just growing by the second.
Every few minutes.
By the end of this podcast, there'll be another 10 players added. There'll be 3 more postponed games. Yeah. Luckily, our game isn't postponed.
Oh my gosh, imagine.
That would have been really bad if we just get here.
Yeah.
So, yeah, let's go through the injuries in the COVID list so far, because one of them was huge. We saw Ramandrey Stevenson.
Yeah. Well, Damian Harris, actually. He's actually one of the last ones on my list here, but I'll talk about him first. Damian Harris, he actually didn't get COVID, but he's actually questionable with a hamstring, and he was actually just ruled out for the game. So if you guys can pick up Ramandrey Stevenson, or if you have him on your bench, really try to get him into your lineup this weekend. I want to do a post tomorrow, or actually today for you guys, because we're posting this on Saturday, but I want to do a post before the game on TikTok saying who you guys should start and who you guys should sit, and Ramandrey Stevenson is going to be on the start list. You need to find a way to get him into your lineup. He's going to have over 10 fantasy points. I think he's going to beat his projection. I think he's going to be projected around 14. I think he's going to beat that, get maybe 18 points, somewhere between 16 and 18 fantasy points. So try to get Stevenson into your lineup. And then going along with that, if I would downgrade Michael Pittman, and he's probably going to be on my sit list for my TikTok that I'm going to make before the game. But definitely keep an eye out for that, because J.C. Jackson, he usually covers the number 1 receiver, and I've had the number 1 receiver against the Patriots be on my sit list before throughout the season. Amari Cooper, Brandon Cooks both had bad games when J.C. Jackson covered them. And not necessarily J.C. Jackson is like a shutdown corner. It's just that Belichick likes to shut down your best option. And I know Jonathan Taylor is their best option, but if you watch the tape, you could see that the Colts, every third down and they need to throw it, they basically look at Michael Pittman as the first read. So I don't think that Belichick's going to let that happen. So I would downgrade Pittman a little bit. So just keep an eye out for that post later. But yeah, Damian Harris is ruled out, so Ramandrey Stevenson, try to get into your lineup. Another injury situation, James Conner and Chase Edmonds. A lot of you guys probably have one of these guys in your lineup, but James Conner has that ankle injury suffered on the last play, and the quote from Kingsbury is that he's confident that James Conner will play. I think he's going to get probably 50% of the snaps, so I would downgrade him. He's not going to get over 20 fantasy points, I don't think, because Kingsbury said after he got hurt, he's like, oh, shoot, he got hurt on the final play of the game. But he's like, oh, okay, maybe we should not give him as many carries. Because remember when Edmonds was out, like Connor's playing every snap. So he's like, oh, maybe we shouldn't have like played him a lot. So he's like, all right, when Edmonds comes back this week, maybe they'll like dial it down, give them both 50-50. Because Edmonds is also coming into the game questionable. Kingsbury says he definitely feels good about him playing. He still hasn't been like activated off IR and said he's playing. But I think both of them will play. I think they'll both split. But I would be worried about him. I don't think either gets over 20 fantasy points. But I think they can get 15 fantasy points around there. So they're a decent start. Probably a high-end RB2. Both of them are this week. And then number 2, probably a really important one for you guys, Lamar Jackson. Hasn't practiced at all this week. Huntley's still a good option for
You're literally naming all the guys on my team. Lamar and Chase Conner.
Yeah. I mean, it's rough. I mean, at least Andrews you can still get production out of.
Yep, Andrews, and I got Barkley backing up.
Okay, so that's good. But then as far as Lamar, be careful about him. He's probably not going to play, just so you guys know. He hasn't practiced all week. He's questionable. Has yet to be ruled out, but I don't think he's going to play. And then Melvin Gordon, Javonte Williams, they're both questionable, limited throughout the week. But Vic Fangio says both of them are going to play on Sunday. So last week we saw them both get they shared the snaps 50-50 like they usually do, but it was against the Lions. They both scored 2 touchdowns. Like that's pretty rare for that to happen. Bengals have a better defense than the Lions, of course. So I wouldn't be like, oh, Gordon had 2 touchdowns last week, got to put him in my lineup, and Javonte Williams got 2 touchdowns, got to put him in my lineup. I'm not saying they're not must starts. I wouldn't say that they're must starts. They could both get over 10 fantasy points for sure. Maybe one of them finds the end zone. Gordon has been more likely to do that. But I would just be careful about them. If I had the option, I would rather pick up Ramandrey Stevenson and put him in if I had Melvin Gordon or Javonte Williams, just to give you an idea of what I think about that situation. And then the last one, Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard. Pollard is a game-time decision with that foot injury. And then Zeke left off the injury report this week. He's going to play on Sunday. He's been wearing the knee brace, and he says it's actually helped him last week, made him feel better. So they say he's a full go, but I don't really believe that because last week Corey Clement got like over 10 touches. So I think, if you have Zeke, he's a high-end RB2. It's kind of that situation. I would put Zeke in the same conversation as James Conner and Chase Edmonds this week. Like good matchups against the Giants and Lions, but again, they all have injuries that they're tending with, and they still have to share time with other players. So I like Stevenson over him, over all those guys, and I still like some of other players, but definitely stay tuned to the Patreon and the live on Sunday to see who I like over who. But yeah, a lot of injuries to consider, but just wanted to give you guys my thoughts on that.
Yeah, it's gonna be a tough one, especially with the first week of playoffs.
Yeah,
all these COVID lists are just growing and growing, and it just makes it a lot harder. Like I was talking about I have Waller in my lineup, but I also have Hunter Renfrow. Right. So he's playing, but now the game's shifted to Tuesday.
Right. So Waller could end up playing.
Waller could end up playing now. What if they push it more to next week? Then like what happens
then
with fantasy?
I don't really know. I haven't really experienced that. Hopefully Tuesday will be fine. Hopefully enough people will be activated off the list so that they can play the game. But yeah, a lot of things to consider, and everybody in fantasy is just trying to scavenge for points. They're just trying to be like, I would just say if you guys know your guy is going to play, then maybe put him in. Don't wait until Tuesday for somebody like McLaurin who's playing Tuesday night and he's questionable. You don't know if he's going to play. So I would just be careful about McLaurin, be careful about all those guys. If you have somebody like DK Metcalf and you're deciding between McLaurin or DK, actually, that's a bad example because DK also plays on Tuesday. But if you have somebody playing Sunday and you're deciding, I would probably put the Sunday guy in just in case. You never know.
Yeah. No, it just adds to the suspense. We have to wait till Tuesday night now to figure out if I advanced.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
Crazy.
All right, so our next topic, as you all know, it hasn't changed in the last 11 episodes, fantasy strategies. Now, this is the most important because we're in the playoffs. Right. There's no strategies like, these will help you get in the playoffs. We are in the playoffs at this moment.
It's like, what can I do right now?
What can they do right now, John? I don't even know.
Honestly, like I talked about last week, the defenses. If you guys try to look ahead, if you have that open roster spots are at a premium right now because you want to bench as many people as you can because of all these COVID injuries, COVID scares and injuries. You're like, okay, well, Fournette didn't practice. Like, is he going to play? Maybe I pick up Ronald Jones. But maybe do I leave Ronald Jones on waiver and then pick up a defense for next week that has a good matchup? It's like, okay, what do you do? What do you prioritize? Like I said last week, the defenses that I said last week, I'm going to reiterate them this week. But week 16, you got the Chargers. If they're available, definitely try to pick them up in your leagues. And the Seahawks, go ahead and play the Chicago Bears next week. That's a decent matchup for them. And then in week 17, San Francisco, who plays Atlanta this week, hopefully you guys pick them up, but they play Houston in week 17. That's a good matchup for the fantasy football finals. Seattle again plays Detroit, so you see this theme with Seattle here. That's good matchups for them. And then in week 18, the Saints play the Falcons, who give up the most fantasy points to opposing defenses. So again, a theme with the Saints here. Two good matchups in the last few weeks. And then the Packers, if you can stash them for week 18. I know in Yahoo, where I play a couple of my leagues, it only goes to week 17. But then in ESPN, the fantasy finals are week 17 and 18. So if you can grab the Packers defense, they play the Detroit Lions in week 18. So some good matchups for you guys there. But in terms of, other than picking up defenses, always rostering those backup running backs. But with all those COVID scares and injuries, you always got to monitor the reports and, get some notifications on from ESPN or Bleacher Report or anywhere where you get your notifications so that you can pick up guys right away. If somebody's on the COVID list, you can go ahead and pick their backup right away before other people in your league.
All right. So we're going to keep it moving with week 15 predictions. Now, as I said with the fantasy strategies, this has not changed either. Oh, get that thing back. I worked hard to get that up there, all right? I worked hard. So we're going to go with the games that you love, John. What are the games that you love? I imagine Giants-Cowboys already up there, right? Right? We paid a lot of money for these tickets.
We're paying a lot of money to go. I don't think it's going to be that high scoring. I wish I could lie to myself and say that it will be, but I just don't think it's going to be hugely high scoring. I mean, we always talk about the Giants. They keep it low scoring and close.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that it's different. I'm hoping the defense gets blown out, and then we could just start throwing it and maybe come back or something. I don't know. Anyway, one of the games I love is the Titans and the Steelers. And you might be asking, well...
Really? That's a surprise.
I know, it's surprising because the Steelers' offense has been atrocious. It wasn't until the second half that they played well. And the Titans seem to keep things low scoring now that they don't have the receivers and stuff. Mm-hmm. But I think in terms of fantasy points, I think you should start a lot of the guys on this team. I think Big Ben is a streaming option. Deonta Foreman was in one of my... I think he is. I mean, if you're looking like for a quarterback, you might be looking for a quarterback. Big Ben's a streamer. Deonta Foreman, I like. And then Julio Jones is a possible streamer as well. Obviously, Deontay Johnson, you're getting into your lineup. Chase Claypool, I like a little bit more this week than last week. But like I said, Freiermuth, I don't really like as much. So I just think that's going to be a higher scoring game. There's not a lot of games on the slate where both teams, I think, are going to be hugely fantasy relevant. Like we have Cardinals and Lions. Mm-hmm. Obviously, if you have Cardinals players, you're starting them. We have Jets, Dolphins. If you have Dolphins players, you're starting them. So like, I think the Titans-Steelers could be a game where both teams have some fantasy relevant players. And then the Texans and Jaguars. That's probably even more surprising than Titans and Steelers.
Come on.
But Urban Meyer's gone. So like maybe you start to open
the show off. Yeah. What a great day this is. Urban Meyer's gone.
Yeah. Oh, so like maybe the Jaguars open up the playbook. Maybe they give some other guys more opportunities than they had before. And then the Texans, Brandon Cooks with Davis Mills at quarterback last week, Cooks had a good game. He had 18 fantasy points. So, David Johnson, you could start at running back. Rex Burkhead looks like he's not going to play. So David Johnson, I would try to stay away from. But if you needed a deep running back, he's an option. Brevin Jordan had a touchdown last week. Again, really deep tight end option. But Brandon Cooks, you're trying to get into your lineup. And then on the other side, the Jaguars, Marvin Jones could be an option. And then James Robinson, maybe without Urban Meyer there.
James Robinson is...
He could have a good game.
He's going to be skipping out of the tunnel.
I know, he's going to be so happy. He's going to be like, yes, I get to stay on the field.
Yes, he's gone. Yeah. Carlos Hyde, get out of here. You're not playing it down.
He won't play at all. So that's why I like that game. I think both teams, obviously both defenses suck, so both teams could score over 20.
Yeah.
And then the last one is the Saints and Bucks. Last time these two teams faced, I think both teams got over 20, 25 points. And Simeon had like 3 touchdowns in that game. The Bucks scored over 30. So obviously, if you have Fournette, Godwin is going to have a huge game. Mike Evans, be a little careful because Lattimore is going to be on him. But he did catch a 40-yard touchdown last time they played the Saints. Gronk, try to get into your lineup. Brady, of course, you're starting. And then on the Saints side, Kamara, you're starting. And I think that's it from the Saints. And unless you're in a really deep league, that's all you're starting from there. So those are some of the games I love.
All right, let's transition to games that you hate. Now, I see it on here, and I agree with you. And I already have Jamar Chase out of my lineup.
Really?
Yes.
In which league?
I took him out in my 6-man.
Okay.
So it's not the playoffs, so it's nothing crazy. But I think I saw what you saw. Denver's defense is really good.
Right.
Probably going to focus on Jamar Chase.
Exactly. I think Denver is at home in this game, and Denver usually plays better when they're at home. Their secondary is good. It's going to be tough for the Bengals to go to Denver and have a lot of success. Even last week against the 49ers, remember, the Bengals didn't really do anything until the last 5 minutes of the game when Jamar Chase had 2 touchdowns. So you might be like, oh, now Burrow loves Chase again. Let me put him back in my lineup. I would be a little careful about Higgins, Boyd, Mixon, Chase. I think this is going to be a lower scoring game, and I think if you have guys in this game on your fantasy team, Sutton, Judy, Melvin Gordon, Bridgewater, Fant, Javonte Williams, and then all those guys I mentioned on the Bengals, I would downgrade them a little bit. Like I said, I would like Ramandrey Stevenson over any of the Broncos running backs, and then Mixon. I don't know if Mixon would be in my top 8 or even top 10 this week, even though he gets such good volume. He hasn't hit 10 fantasy points in a few weeks because of how much they've needed to throw the ball and how tough they've been, against the ground. All the defenses have been pretty good against the run against, the Bengals. So just be careful about that game. Just downgrade your players a little bit, especially because it's in Denver, which is a tough place to play, and their defense usually plays better.
All right, so moving on to our last 2 topics. It's probably one that people just skipped ahead.
They just go right into right here. They just want to see this part of the video now.
Yep, you jumped and you missed everything. You don't know what's going on.
Yeah, you don't know about Ramandrey Stevenson, so maybe you want to go back and check that out.
Exactly. Luckily for you, well, actually, unlucky for you, I don't see any weekly picks or must-sits.
Unfortunately, no. Well, before I get into that, I just want to say to you guys,
The show ends here. It's done. You went to the end.
So, good luck. No. Guys, please, I do the Patreon for you guys. I make all these posts on TikTok and the Patreon for you guys. So if you guys can, definitely head over to the Patreon, because this week, of course, you guys know we're at MetLife Stadium on Sunday. I'm going live Saturday night, which is tonight for you guys at 10 p.m. Eastern Time. Going to answer your guys' questions if I can, and then I'm going to go live on Sunday. I'm going to attempt to go live at the stadium. They said they have Wi-Fi at the stadium. I don't know how good the Wi-Fi or, my data plan is just not good.
They all know.
Yeah, they all know about that. But I'm just saying, the only way, if I can't go live at the stadium at noon on Sunday at Eastern Time,
you're screwed.
Then you're going to have, the only way to get my weekly picks is to go over to the Patreon. And it's $1 a week. That's the cheapest I can make it on the Patreon. So definitely head over to that, and I'm going to give you guys my weekly picks, must-sits, rankings, and give you guys some of my other thoughts, players I would start my weekly picks over, and point projections maybe. I'm going to give you guys a lot of thoughts on Sunday morning, but I'm going to attempt to go live. But as far as weekly picks and must-sits, I like Ramandrey Stevenson. He's probably going to be on my start list if I make a video before the game on Saturday night. But I usually do my weekly picks. Usually my weekly picks and must-sits are just Sunday players, so we can get reaction videos out, and most people use my picks for daily fantasy as well.
It's going to be different this week. Probably.
Yeah, it's going to be different because there's a little less games, games on Monday, 2 games Monday, 2 games Tuesday. But I will say, you guys can probably infer from some of the players I said before. Like I said, I don't like Pittman as much. I like Ramandrey Stevenson. And then I like those Dolphins players. Without Waddle in the lineup, Gesicki and Parker get an upgrade. And then, James Robinson could get an upgrade without Urban Meyer.
I was just going to say his name. James Robinson could go off.
He could. I think last week he had 2 fantasy points. The week before he had 0.4. So it's tough to pick him as a weekly pick because he could easily just have 8 fantasy points. And the coaching staff could be maybe we still like Hyde, or maybe we want to give one of the backups a try because let's just focus on next season, try to see what we have in store. But you never know. Maybe Robinson will be a weekly pick. But definitely stay tuned for Sunday. And just stay tuned to that Patreon because I'm going to have 4 weekly picks and probably 3 must-sits like I usually do.
All right. Well, that wraps it up for this episode.
Yeah, I think so.
A monumental episode. We're here in real life in MetLife Stadium, New Jersey. We got plenty more content, so hopefully you hit that subscribe button. And as John said before, he's going to be going live Saturday, which would be today for you guys. And then we'll try to go live Sunday before the Giants game at MetLife. We'll see how the Wi-Fi is. Hopefully we see you guys there. If you're going to go to the game, comment down below. We'll contact you. We already posted the TikTok, so we see a lot of you are going to the game as well. So hopefully we see you guys there, and hopefully you can get a beanie.
Yeah.
5 beanies.
Sick, really.
We already got 3 or 4 people that said they're going to the game, so that's...
If you see some orange beanies or a Barkley jersey, there's probably going to be a lot of Barkley jerseys, but...
You know what? Caleb might have a Nick Foles jersey. So if you see an Eagles Nick Foles jersey...
With an orange hat.
With orange hat. Just look for 4 orange hats, freaking
traffic
cones.
Yeah, you could see us in the stadium. If you're panning around, you could probably see us.
Oh, easily.
So 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep, dorm debate.
We'll probably be directing parking and traffic. They'll be so bright. They gather to follow you. So hopefully we see you guys there, and hopefully you guys hit the subscribe button. Join the Patreon. It'll be in the top of the description. And we will see you guys next week. But more importantly, we'll see you guys for the Dorm Bay episode. We'll see you guys for a bunch more content. Hopefully you go follow on TikTok and on Instagram at Dorm Bay Podcast. All right, that's all I got. We will see you guys next week.